Alright, YouTube, I got one last recording for the day, and the sun is coming up, so I know the little one at least is going to be up and interrupting my peace. So it's kind of got to do with race relations in America. I know usually I talk about romantic relationships, but I want to talk about relationships and in all its forms, and kind of being strangers with people. It's kind of a relationship too. It's how you relate to somebody you don't know them. That's a relationship. But and I'm kind of spurred on and inspired by the beginning of the DNC last night. I watched it. I stayed up. I was proud. I stayed up on until Mrs. Obama, who looked absolutely ravishing. I stayed on until she spoke, and she had her beautiful daughters with her, and I just was damn near tears at the interaction that the family had, because it was real. And me, like the situations that I'm witnessing with my girls, and their marriages kind of scaring your girl off of marriage, but it was nice to see a positive example of just marital love, and especially black marital love. But it seems like this country kind of has a warped view still of African American life. Now, I mean, it began with that quote unquote documentary Black in America, just really pissed me off to no end. As well as some friends, but I won't get into that. I'm in this, I'm trying to get my bachelor's in psychology, and I've done all my core courses, so now I'm in my electives, and the current course is American history since 1865, and the first assignment was to read some slave narratives and to read the text on the Reconstruction era and how it affected African Americans' ability to own land and to become prosperous, and we had to compare and contrast the two readings, and I walked away with it. I come from a family, my father's family, they were sharecroppers. That was just one step away from slavery. And when they left Arkansas, they left from being sharecroppers. So it's kind of like I still got that connection to how things were and how African Americans could not own land and be prosperous on their own in some instances. So I'm reading these slave narratives and just getting pissed off, because they were written, it was like some university project, and they were written by white people back in the 30s, so you kind of got the mindset, what the mindset was then. And the question that the instructor posed was if we thought that the narratives were true. And so we only had to pick a few to read and focus on, and it seemed like the first few that I did, they were written phonetically. If the former slave spoke something in broken English, it was written exactly like that. And so now I'm getting pissed off. Trying not to, the instructor said to remain objective and to, keep in mind the time frame, but I'm getting pissed off. And just the tales that these former slaves were telling, I don't know if they were necessarily untrue, but considering the time that these things were written, and the fact that they were written by white people, from a university, which meant, that this is going to be seen on an academic level, just pointed to me that, I think there were some embellishments, because, quite obviously, there were not many readers who came out, of the group that were former slaves, so it's not like they could look at what was written from their narratives and say, that's not what I said, they wouldn't know. And so it just, a lot of the stories came out that, these former slaves felt like, life wasn't so bad on the plantation, and they, had an affinity toward their masters, and their masters and mistresses treated them well. It was even this one woman who said her mistress threw her a wedding. She got married to a slave on another plantation, and they, threw the wedding on the porch. And, she had a wedding dress, and the mistress made her a veil out of some, lace curtain, and they had this grand banquet spread, and, music and dancing and all this other, and it's just like, this is bullshit. I just don't see it. It's not to say that every slave master and mistress was harsh, and that they may not have had a personal rapport with the slaves that they owned, but I just have a hard time seeing things having, like that having occurred. But, I could always be wrong, but, we were to give our opinion on if we thought that the narratives were true, and that was my opinion based on what I've been told and taught about slavery up until this point does not reflect slave masters and mistresses throwing slaves grand weddings, so, and I just relay, my experience, and especially with the speech, how it was relayed by the writers really pissed me off, because like I said, my daddy's people came from Arkansas and did not speak the way that these former slaves are being represented. And that Arkansas, pretty much as south as you can get, and they were sharecroppers. That was like one of the compromises of Reconstruction was, no, you can't own this land, but you can pay me to lease it out, and whatever money you get beyond your rent, is yours. So, like I said, it kind of makes a connection to this material, and I don't recall any of my daddy's people speaking that way. And my father, he grew up in Arkansas, and all he had was his high school diploma. So he had an education, but he never went to college, and his vocabulary was immaculate. So it kind of just like pissed me off, not so much because of the narratives and how the slaves were presented, but my classmates' reactions or discussions of the, you could tell that the good majority of them were white, because they drank the Kool-Aid. They were like, saying that they felt that the narratives were true, and that they were stories told from the eyes of the slaves. And I'm like, how could you think that, the instructor told us to keep in mind the time frame when these things were written? You think about, I worked for a marketing agency, and they gave us a few years ago to celebrate, this 100-year union they had with one of their clients that, is based in the UK. And they showed some old advertisements from this particular client from back like in the 30s and 40s, when, women's servitude was highly promoted. And it was a lot of propaganda, like, women, to make sure you use this product so you don't get dishpan hands, because you don't want to embarrass your husband, or use this laundry soaps to wash your undergarments because you don't want to be funky and embarrass your husband. So a lot of those writings from that time was propaganda, and I that's what I just thought this was. So not to get away from my point, because I'm coming up on 10, but to me, even though I think we have made tremendous strides toward acceptance of all cultures, but we still have a long way to go. And I just think that those of us who have a curiosity to other cultures, and this goes to black folks as well, needs to do what they can. Like this, this upcoming election is historic, and it's, an excellent opportunity for us to really, let down our guards and get rid of our prejudices about other cultures and races, and really listen to the stories that they have, and stop running off what the media tells us, and get to know each other, because, things, there are changing times, they are changing, I should say, and it's time for us to be better with that. So this is just a social commentary. I mean, you can add if you want to. I just wanted to share that with you. It's kind of eating me up because nobody responded to my posting, so I think I kind of blew their mind with that. But anyway, if you got some comments and it's something you want to add, hit me up in comments or on an email. Talk to you.